we help them initially on all of the marketing and getting the events. And because we have like almost 100 contracts now with convention centers around the country. We have contracts with the major concessions companies within the convention centers, and we have relationships with, the many of the largest promoters that promote events. And so when we have a new franchisee, oftentimes it's the case that it's a venue that we've wanted to service, that a promoter has wanted to service. We already have relationships with the concessions company. So um, the best way this lays out is we have a new franchisee and we're able to either turn over events that we've historically done, that sometimes happens, but also just leverage promoters who, many of these promoters do events all over the country. And we're certainly very well known in the Comic-Con space, anime space, gaming, and motorcycle rallies. Like those genres, we just know. Oh, and air shows too.
Welcome to the Tracer Podcast, your inside track to all things franchising. We provide essential resources for anyone in the franchising world. Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to the Tracer Franchising Podcast, where I interview great franchisors and franchisees who are going to give kind of the real deal on what's happening in the franchise space. Today, I've got Mike Quilty from Wild Bills. Welcome to the Franchise Show.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you as well. I think we've been talking for a long time now, so I'm excited to kind of get you on the podcast and talk about Wild Bills.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. Let's start with you, right? So, kind of, what's your background and how'd you get involved with Wild Bills?
So, background here is I'm also a Naval Academy graduate. Served in. I was not a Marine though. I served in submarines, so somewhat related, but not the same. I started a company after I got out of the Navy, and had what they call a 12-year overnight success. Sold my company in 2011, retired, and spent a lot of time on kind of veteran give back programs, veteran give back opportunities. And really it was a specific day that I was at the Boulder Crest Retreat Center in Virginia, where I met a group of Marines who had recently returned from Afghanistan. We're doing a reunion. And I met this group of Marines who were either seriously unemployed or underemployed. And with my friend, we turned to each other and said, we should do something for these people. And we got involved with Wild Bills initially as a franchisee, hiring these Marines, and then eventually became the franchisor. And but it all came out of wanting to create jobs and entrepreneurial activities for veterans. The initial couple of years, it was all Marines all the time, and then we've added Army, Navy, and Air Force, more recently. But it's been a great ride, a great adventure, and nothing better than working with fellow veterans on a mission and seeing them grow professionally and become small businessmen and women. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. And so I think there's not a lot of franchises whose roots come from the veteran space and kind of was built around the skills that I think a lot of vets bring to the table. So let's talk specifically about let's go to what is Wild Bills, and then we'll talk about those skills, right? So can you just give us a quick overview of what is Wild Bills?
Sure. So Wild Bills has been around for a long time, since 2002. So been around for a while. It started franchising in 2017, but the model, going back to the original founder's concept, was he had built a mobile Wild West saloon and took it to events, mostly in the Northeast of the U.S., and would serve craft soda, high quality craft soda. But the interesting part is he would make commemorative and collectible mugs, stainless steel mugs with the logo of the event on them. And you would buy the mug, get unlimited refills of the soda. It was a great value. You also got this souvenir collectible, and the business just grew. It was very kind of regional and seasonal, but a neat little business. And as we were looking for businesses to purchase or to get involved with to create jobs, the actual elements of bringing equipment, transporting equipment, setting up for events, doing engagements, it was very similar to what a lot of the Marines had done working for us. We actually have a picture in the office of the first four Marines lined up on a howitzer, and then those four Marines lined up in the same order in front of a Wild Bill stand. So and they've gone on. Two of them have gone on to become franchisees. One has moved on to working in private equity, and one is a entrepreneur, also an entrepreneur. So, but it was the actual business was a sound business that was just needed capital and talent to grow. And so when we got involved, 2017 we were a franchisee. 2018 we became a franchisor, and we opened up geographically down in Florida, in San Diego, in Chicago, and just began growing it. And then as the initial model was, we hired these veterans on as area managers. As they grew the territory, they had the opportunity to become a franchisee. So that was the initial. Now we have folks just joining right in directly as a franchisee. And one of the things that we've put in place to support them is 2 years ago, we put in place a veteran financing program where we can help. One is we lower our fees. The second thing is we can finance the equipment and the franchise fee for them. So that's a new program we have. I think 3 veterans have used it so far, but it's something we envision for folks who don't have a lot of they don't have these big fat bank accounts and don't necessarily want to do an SBA loan. We've decided to get in the game. They're very good credit risks, and we believe in the business. So lending to somebody who's buying our equipment and buying a route is a great investment for us.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think that stops a lot of veterans from being able to get into owning a business is the capital part, right? It's they don't have an idea or they don't know how to run a business, which the franchise answers that, and then they don't have a capital for most franchises, and you guys have an answer for that. So I do think this makes it a very unique opportunity for vets, right? So I think it's really cool what you're doing. And then just kind of to hammer it home, right? I think people need to also be aligned with the core values, right? So if you talk a little bit about the core values of Wild Bills.
So when we very first got started, in the first day, in the first meeting, we wrote our core values down and have kind of organized the business around them. First one is commitment. The second one is integrity. Third is growth, and the fourth is service, which all tie in, of course, to all of us who've served in the military. I would say it's applicable to the company, but also applicable for each of our employees and our franchisees. So it's not just the growth of Wild Bill's corporate; it's the growth of these folks who are starting out usually as a first-time entrepreneur and having to learn about QuickBooks and having to learn about accounting and bookkeeping and how to get a tax ID and how to start an LLC and how to get business insurance. And we really lean in. Our model is to lean in with folks to really be able to help them, because most of our franchisees have never run a business before. We have a couple that have some prior experience, but for most of them, they're committing to doing this. We're committing to helping them. They're starting out small, and the goal is always to add multiple stands in the territory and build out a nice sized business. And they're going to have to they're going to grow with us, and they're going to grow professionally, and they're going to learn new things, and they're going to be stretched. And we're very focused on building a support organization that allows everybody to be successful. And I'm really proud to say that all of our franchisees made it through COVID. We didn't lose any of them, and we currently have 15 franchisees who are all referenceable. And when new franchisees come in, they can call and speak to folks about what it's been like working with us.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So just to recap, you said it was commitment, integrity, growth, and
Service.
service. Yep.
Yep.
And so I think, when people hear this about like they're picking a franchise, right? It's not just what do you like the core values, but it's also when you speak to the franchisees, you have to ask, hey, do you really feel like um, the franchisor is aligned with those, right? Or is it just kind of lip service? And everything that I've heard, about you guys is that it truly is kind of lived and it's shared across the system.
Yeah, I mean, these are folks that we're working with, that we've served with, and going back to my day at Boulder Crest and meeting these Marines, and just knowing when knowing about the medals that they had, what did understanding what they mean, and realizing these are really amazing people who made tremendous sacrifices for our country, and certainly didn't come out 100% well. So they all have had, kind of the challenges you would expect. And um, we I didn't kind of come out of retirement, and our team didn't kind of decide to do this but for to help these folks become entrepreneurs and become successful. And that's the track record we have so far is getting people into a very supportive environment and helping them become successful franchisees. And as you know, from we all know, this stuff is hard. Like starting any business is hard, and it takes time, it takes patience. Um, and to your point about capital, it always takes more capital than you think, and it's very hard. So, um, the good news with our franchisees, where we're their capital partner, we know the business, like we understand it, we know the challenges, um, and but more than anything, we know about these people and their background and what it means to have served in the units they served in, and been in the battles that they've been in, and realizing that these are like the integrity one we don't have to worry about at all. And I can say in my job in the real world, not in the military, you do that. There were times where you're really questioned, were people acting from a position of integrity. Thankfully in our company, we have, great franchisees, and we have a really great support staff, and we're aligned, and we're focused on the right thing. And we're also not in a rush, Josh. So there's a lot of times, where companies just have to go fast, and they have to bring on a lot of franchisees. They have to bring on a lot of investment. They have to bring on venture and then it makes people go fast and do things they wouldn't otherwise do. We've been at this, a long time, going 23 years. Like I've been at it for 8, and we have time. We're patient. We're opening up markets as they make sense. A lot of the ones we're focused on right now are markets where we have historically operated corporate events. And so for some of the franchisees, they're starting in markets where we already have an event presence. And we're in even with just 15 franchisees in our corporate team, we've done events in over 500 events in 30 states. So there's a kind of a big footprint out there.
Yeah, that is a big footprint. So, okay, so it sounds like it's a great fit, right? The next thing is it has to be a good business model, right? So they go to events, and they have this booth, right? So how do they find the events? How do they participate in the events? How do they get people to come to the booth, right? Like, let's talk through a little bit about the business model.
Right. And I'll give a little compare and contrast to other related businesses, and why we picked this niche. So, in franchising in general, looking at the cost to get into franchises, and particularly fixed location, you look and it's like it's $1 million, it's $1.5 million, it's millions of dollars, and that's just absolutely, that's a lot of money, and very few people that can do it. Um, the big advantage of the mobile is we don't have bricks and mortar, and we don't have, we're not laying out long leases on spaces. So um, the 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 model is, uh, most of our franchisees, they have a couple of stands. We help them initially on all of the marketing and getting the events. And because we have like almost 100 contracts now with convention centers around the country. We have contracts with the major concessions companies within the convention centers, and we have relationships with, the many of the largest promoters that promote events. And so when we have a new franchisee, oftentimes it's the case that it's a venue that we've wanted to service, that a promoter has wanted to service. We already have relationships with the concessions company. So, um, the perfect, the best way this lays out is we have a new franchisee, and we're able to either turn over events that we've historically done, that sometimes happens, but also just leverage promoters who, many of these promoters do events all over the country. And we're certainly very well known in the Comic-Con space, anime space, gaming, and motorcycle rallies. Like those genres, we just know. Oh, and air shows too. We know most of the promoters, and many of them are more big companies than small companies that operate across multiple states. So we have kind of the ability to help create a list, show it to the franchisee, work with them to pick the best ones. But more than anything, we have the experience of doing hundreds of events a year for, over 20 years. And so we know what's good and we know what's bad. And there are some counterintuitive things. You think, oh, every concert's probably great. No, every concert's not great. Like it really ties in with the venue. It ties in with alcohol consumption. It ties in, we're serving craft soda. Interestingly, we do find things where if they're not serving alcohol and we have a niche for soda drinkers, but you really have to think through the venue, the event, and hopefully it's an event we're already doing in other places. So I'll give an example. There's a food truck, a Foodies that does food truck pop-ups all over the country. Many of our franchisees work with them. So, and we've done them in multiple markets. We know what a good one and a bad one looks like, and we can help the franchisee say, this one in this market is probably a smaller one. It helps on the negotiating the fees, and all this stuff is about negotiating good fees. You have to, you don't want to go in, you don't want to be spending a lot of money until after you've done the event once or twice and have a sense as to, is it worth sponsoring? Is it worth getting a premium space? So we just have a lot of experience in booking events. We have a lot of relationships with venues. We have a lot of relationships with promoters, and then these concession companies that are all over the Sodexo and Centerplate and Food Fleet. They're national companies, and we work with them across multiple markets. So that helps.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I come in as a new franchisee. I've got national accounts, I have relationships, and I have a list of events that I should actually go to, right? So I'm not wasting time on events that aren't going to make money. I know how much to actually pay for these events. I know how to work the events. And so, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty easy to find, right? Because one of the hardest things about finding a business is how do you find the person who's going to
Customers.
buy your thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So we have a big following on social media. We have a big email list. We have, the company's got a footprint. And when all of our franchisees also do social media in their local markets. So, it's easy to get the word out. But it is a build. And as you'd expect, we do our best to make sure, particularly the first couple of events, you want them to be gangbuster, really good ones. But it's hard. And sometimes people try new things. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they don't. We've realized that we do some air shows, pretty big ones. And there's ones that work and ones that don't. And I think we've gotten good at figuring out the secret recipe to why some do and why some don't. But we absolutely, work hand in hand with the franchisees on that piece. The actual equipment training, so there's the getting in the event. We have teams that help on, you have to get a health permit, you have to get electric, you have to get water, you have to think through all these things. And we just have, the experience in helping people walk through that. If you're inside of a venue, like we're in the Javits Center in New York, we're in the LA Convention Center, we're in the Orlando Convention Center, we're in McCormick Place in Chicago, those require a little bit more technical expertise of working in the venue, probably sometimes as a subcontractor. And we just help our franchisees work, get those relationships, work through it. But the getting in, and then the actual equipment over the years, Josh, we started out with the hand built first piece of equipment that was complicated, and over many iterations, and we have 4 basic pieces of equipment. The latest one that we have come out with, that most of our franchisees are starting out with, are just easier to use, lighter to use. It operates off of a cold plate system, so it doesn't have a multiplex chiller. It's mechanically simple. It's also lightweight, and you can do an event with one person. So that's kind of an innovation in the last year. And what that allows for is with the larger, heavier pieces of equipment that need two people to operate, it just changes the profile of the event you can go after. So you need to go after a bigger event because it's going to take more time to set up, more time to break down, and you have more staff. The nice thing about our newer units is, one person can do it, one person can operate it, one person can set it up, and it allows us to do smaller and smaller events. And there's lots and as you know from just going around town every weekend, like there are tens of thousands of events around the country, and I think for us, really the question is picking from the list. Like, so you can generate a list in, on 2 hours out of Salt Lake City of 150 events. You have to figure out of the 150 events, how do I prioritize them? So it has to be a good event. And then does the cost work? Does the, does the travel work? What are the hours and the fees to the promoter? You just have to work it through. And it takes, you're not going to have a fully, ramped up business in 1 year. It takes a while, to build events. But at the end of the day, what you have is, our franchisees are almost all owner operators, and they operate, it's weekend work and it's seasonal. So they do shut down after typically, the week before Thanksgiving, things slow down, and then things get busy again in March. There are some in different parts of the country that's not true because they have, Arizona has great events and, great season, great weather in January and February. And even for our folks in the Northeast where it's cold, increasingly they're doing more and more indoor events. So, but I think it's definitely the case. People are working hard, weekend work for, 6, 7, 8 months. And then it does have almost everywhere has a slow season as well, where you're recovering and just planning for the next year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we can't go into numbers 'cause it's not in the franchise disclosure document yet, right? Maybe next year will
Yep.
be.
Next
But
year. Yep.
you can tell us, do most of your franchisees in the seasonal places, do they have other jobs and this is just like a side hustle? Or is this, is there a full-time thing?
Yeah. It's a mix across them, but there certainly are many of them that this is all they do. And they shut down and take time off. And, as part of the diligence of Wild Bills, we can, hey, as you call them, that's a question to ask. And um, it's a mix of, folks who do other things and folks who do this full time, but seasonally. Um, and I'd say we also have, I said most of them are owner operators. We do have a small number of our 15 who have just gotten their business to the size that they're more working on it than in it. So they're not routinely outgoing doing events, but it took them several years to build it to the point that they can staff it, and they have multiple stands. So, typically a franchisee in the first year is starting out with one stand and operating it, and then you build it. And then eventually, as you have enough stands out there and enough revenue, it does support, we do have franchisees who are much less hands-on and much more managing a business from afar.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's good for people to hear this, right? Because a lot of franchisors will be like, oh, yeah, you can be hands off after a year. And like, that's just not
Yeah,
true.
no,
There's no
not true.
business.
I agree.
So,
Yeah, and I'll give an example. So even, we have one of the folks I'm thinking about, who's here in the Northeast. He does the big events, but he has a lot of events, and he has staff that do most of them. He's not going to all of them, but then his staff gets sick, and he's out doing, like, he's going to Pittsburgh to do a event. So, like every business, I've never seen the fully passive, put in the money and it just doesn't happen. It's like everything is hard work. Um, and it takes time. So
yeah. Yeah. That's the stuff that, like, again, people always talk about the best case, right? So, like, right now, for the dance franchise that we own, our manager is on vacation and two of our teachers are sick. So my wife's been
yep.
teaching like 3 days, 4 days this week. Um, and we have 8 teachers and a manager, right? And you still get sucked back into the business sometimes. And that's just the reality of it. So it's good to hear, people talk about that openly. Um,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Cool. And then we talked a little bit about, I want to go back on this, the funding program you have for veterans, right? So what is somebody who's going to use that program, what do they need to bring to the table in terms of like how much capital do they need?
Yeah, so I don't have a precise number for you, but we do a credit check, and we spend time with them figuring out what's you want people to have skin in the game and be invested, and at the same time, you have to be reasonable, or you have to be understanding of their financial situation. Um, but we're able to provide the pieces that we finance right now are the equipment, and we also can finance the franchise fee over multiple years. And the best part about the veteran franchise program is we'll halve the franchise fee, so it's halved and it's financed over time. Um, but I can say that if we find a good candidate who's in line with our values and a hardworking person, we can usually find a way to make it work. We'll work hard to figure things out. And we have had franchisees. One of the initial Navy franchisees, he did do an SBA loan. So people can't, people, and we have a franchisee who did friends and family. I think mostly family, but that's applicable. That's on the table too. Um, but we certainly realize, every situation is different. It's not like if we had to add 100 franchisees a year, you'd be pretty set in what you're looking for and just trying to cookie cutter it. We're more looking for the right person in the right geography who loves the brand and likes and enjoys what we're doing. You have to really, and it's funny to even say it, but you guys must like the dance thing. Somehow has to, at its core, be interesting to you, because it's hard to be in a business where you just don't like it. And um, I can say when we go out to events and I'm with our corporate team or our franchise team, they like it. Like they actually, like all of us would be going, like if you if went to our headquarters and sat at a meeting and said, how many people, I'm buying plane tickets for Sturgis, how many people want to go? Everybody would want to go. Like there's zero people who wouldn't want to go. Or, we're doing New York Comic Con coming up in 2 weeks. Everybody wants to go. And there's other people that I know that would hate the idea of going to a gaming convention or going to a anime convention. But our franchisees and our partners, they really, really enjoy. They don't mind the weekend work. They like the event part of it, and they just enjoy serving customers. And the neat part about our business, I don't know that I didn't completely say this when I was describing Wild Bills, is you get this stainless steel mug and it's collectible. It's got a logo from Sturgis, 85th anniversary Sturgis on it. If you take it to any other Wild Bills event across the country, you pay $10, you get unlimited refills again, and you meet a lot of people. We'll be in New York in 2 weeks, and we'll meet people from all over the U.S. and Canada who've traveled with their Wild Bill mug. And I say our team enjoys engaging with these people and hearing the story. And when we can find a 2002 mug, we take a picture of it and post it. And here's somebody who's been filling up this mug for over 20 years. And we find those people. But our team likes it. We enjoy the work. We enjoy putting smiles on people's faces. I think for me, the coolest thing ever is, and every event, and I've been to, over 100 events. Every event you see the grandparents with a mug introducing their grandchildren to root beer. And it's so epically cool. Like you realize, I think I remember my grandfather, gave me a root beer. Like it's pretty cool. And then having the mug that's collectible and people saving them. So, I do have, when we're going to, be at some of these big events, we've been at Sturgis many, many years. We bring new limited edition mugs, and, half of the people say, I have 10 of these, but I have to buy the 11th one because it's so cool and it's commemorative and it's different. And it's just a fun little quirky community of collectors and people who enjoy old fashioned craft soda. And everybody talks about the memories. Like everybody talks about, oh my gosh, this brings me back to my father, my grandfather, my family picnics, etc. With the exception, Josh, of, interestingly, we do events in Miami. Nobody in Miami has had root beer. They drink everything fruit, everything fruit. They like orange soda, they like black cherry, they like our rocket pop, they like everything. But you put a root beer or a birch or a sarsaparilla, nobody's had it. Like it's the funniest thing. So we've really cut back on, and it's a real education program, and we just stick to root beer. But most people in Miami at the convention centers, they've never had root beer. You wouldn't think, but it's true.
Yeah, it's so funny because you're saying that, and I was thinking how my family is from. I don't look like it, right? But they're from the Caribbean, and I grew up a long time in Florida, and nobody drinks root beer. But we all
Yes.
had, like you said, we all had orange soda and grape soda and watermelon soda and whatever, right? It's so funny. But you guys have the flavors to be able to attract, whoever.
You
Um,
have to. And Josh, I will say, if you're in Miami and we go to a Comic-Con and somebody says, or a gaming convention, and somebody says, why don't you have the root beer? And we say, where are you from? 98% of the time they're from Ohio. It's like, I'm from Ohio or I'm from Pennsylvania, but that's where they're from. They're from Ohio, so,
so funny.
it's funny how you can really tell where people come from based upon, they're from parts of Dallas, parts of Texas, and they know sarsaparilla, but it's very regional. It's very neat.
Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. Yeah, and that's the whole thing is like you don't have to be passionate about it, but you have to enjoy the core service, right? So like me and my wife, we never danced, but she was a pediatric nurse for 10 years. She loves being around with kids. She loves
Yes.
movement, right? And so it just makes sense, right? She just likes being there with the kids. Um, but if you hated kids, you would fail at this business because
Right.
so it's the same. You have to for Wild Bills, you have to like um, the customer service and speaking to people and meeting new people and things like that.
Yeah, and I'll hit on the logistics piece, which is like more. It's like you get into businesses and you learn so much, and a lot of times it's more than you think. So you got to be the type of person that likes, like we just did the Miramar Air Show in
Cool.
San Diego on the base, and you can imagine what it's like setting up, two Wild Bill stands on the base and getting all the. It's hard. It's logistically complex. It's an evolution. Like in the military, we're used to this, hurry up and wait, and like just the, getting the submarine ready or getting ready for deployment and it's just the hardness of getting ready. So like our Marine who led that, had a couple other Marines with him, and they're just like, it's like, oh, this is going to be terrible getting on this base, and it's going to take 3 times longer than it should. But then you finally get set up, and you have to like this element of the business, which is you've got 8 hours to sell, and there's like, it's a line, Wild Bills is a line management business. And, the idea of you have to have multiple registers, you have to be selling the line, you have to do line management, you have to set up stanchions, you have to, like, just thinking through, if you've got 8 hours in a day or 10 hours in a day, or on a Sunday, you only have 4 hours, it's very, 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 it's very important that you think through throughput, and like selling in the line is a big thing, and just managing a line. And there's a point with, we're going to see this at New York Comic-Con. There's something about standing in a line that is like a validation, and people just walk, and Wild Bills, we will have lines the whole time. And there's a point where people see it and they're like, oh my God, that's cool. I got to get in that line. And then suddenly it's so long that people walk away. And so we're constantly, between cash registers, selling in the line, managing the line, engaging people in the line to keep to be able to put it through. It's just a lot of experience, but you got to be fine with, it's very boring, very boring, very boring, logistically complex setting it up. And then, oh my gosh, you got, Saturday and Sunday, and you're working, you can't take a break. You're working. So, and if there's a line, it's like no break, like just keep work, get through the line, get the people serviced, and then you break at the end of the day. But there are some, we have all had the blisters on our feet and going home Sunday night and sleeping for, 15 hours straight to recuperate from it. So, some of these events they're really, they're really, really hard. It's fun, and I enjoy it, and everyone that does it on our team enjoys it. But I could see people saying, I just don't like the idea of, it's very stressful, when you have to make all of your money. It's not like a retail location where you open the door and people come in. Like, people are getting ported into this arena and channeled by you, and you have to, you have a limited time to service them, and then the event's over, and then and you either did well or you didn't. And there's a lot of pressure and a lot of planning that goes into this stuff. So you have to like that. Like if you're not a planner or you're a procrastinator or you don't like customer service or you don't like you have to flex your staff and train your staff really well. If you're not one to hire and train and engage staff, this maybe it's a one unit franchise where you and a family member are doing it, but you're certainly not going to grow it into multiple units if you don't enjoy hiring and training people. And all of our staff do, because they were in the military and they tend to hire a lot of military veterans. And interestingly, those people then go on and become franchisees in new territories. So it's been a kind of a virtuous circle of, trying to do good and help people and have a good time and then support them, when they go out to be a franchisee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so cool because like I can almost envision like I'm thinking about my platoon. I'm like, okay, this guy would be really good for working the line because he's super outgoing, and these guys would be really good for like the setup and making sure everything's running quickly. You can like fit the personalities. And you're like,
Yeah.
I know exactly who would do a great job at this. So it's funny. Um, cool. So then let's talk a little bit more about competition, right? So you're at Comic-Con, you're at whatever. Are there other sodas, and how do you get people coming to you as opposed to
Yeah.
you going to them?
So the biggest way we have people coming to us, so most of our events right now are repeat. So of the 500 a year, even though we're adding franchisees, the bulk of them are repeat shows. And the way that people come to us is a lot of them are either returning with a mug or they're returning to buy a mug. So they've just experienced Wild Bills before. They're coming, we've been at the Ohio State Fair for year after year after year. People know that we're there. We've been at Sturgis for year after year. We've been at LA Comic-Con year after year. People just know. So that's a big piece of it is returning customers. And for new customers, for a new venue, we just opened up a racetrack in New Jersey, in central New Jersey. Thankfully, nobody came with a mug because nobody knew we were going to be there, but people had known us from, some percentage of the people had known us from other events. And then they come and they stand on a line, and then other people coming in see a line. And remember, we have a line of people buying, and then we have because you get unlimited refills when you buy a mug, we always have people around the booth refilling. So there is something to it. Doesn't take much before you have people around the booth, and then it just draws the attention of other people. And our booth is, quite an eye open. It's very visually, like you walk in, you're going to see it, and you're going to turn and say, "What is that?" And then you see people there, and you walk up. So a lot of it is, returning customers. Oh, the other one is these events, people are walking around with their mugs. It's like an advertisement. So a lot, people are like, what is that mug? And why are all these people walking around with this mug? It's like, oh, it's the Wild Bills people. They come every year. Oh, I've never been to this show. What is it? And so we have a lot of customers coming who've already heard about Wild Bills from somebody else that they met on the floor. And then we do like if we went back to New York. We're going back to New York Comic-Con this year. We were not in it. We were not in it last year. We've just been on our email and social media, letting people know that we're back. When people buy a mug, there's a QR code on the tag. They can scan it, get a lifetime warranty on the mug. That then puts them into our email campaign. And so we know, like, if we're going to do an event in Pittsburgh, or we're going to do an event in Charlottesville, Virginia, or we're going to do an event in Rhode Island, we have an email list. We also promote stuff on social media. And then if it was a totally new territory where we've never done an event, you would also, there's things that you can do with the promoter. So we don't tend to have to do them in our established markets just because we're more well known. But early on, when we opened up markets, we would go to the promoter and get signage or get them to do social media supporting us. So it would be it's a mix of things in different markets. We've never done an event in the state of Wyoming. We were talking about, what are we going to do when we do our first event? Everyone on our team is like, our first event is going to be a rodeo, and it's going to be with a promoter that we've worked with in other markets. So so the promoter already knows us. They would probably post for us, and it's highly likely that like we've done Cowboy Christmas in the past. We've done different rodeos around the country. It's highly likely that some of the people coming to the rodeo would know us from other rodeos, or if they don't know us from, um, if they don't know us from other rodeos, they might know us from other events in Utah, or events that are a couple hours away. So, um, it gets better every year as we have more stands and more events and more presence. More people know us, and it makes it easier. But nobody's starting from zero. Like we have a brand presence, we have some relationships. Going into a completely new venue, we know the kind of things you have to do to get traffic. And then, to your point of, we're really clear with the concessions companies and the promoters. We are not competing with the $4 Coke or the $3 Coke. Our average price point is higher because they're buying a collectible stainless steel mug. We're usually, in many circumstances, licensing the logo of the event, and ours is unlimited refills. So the price points are really, really different, and we think we're going after a different crowd. And the fact that we've been doing this all these years and working with the same venues and the same promoters and the same concessions teams, if we were really hitting their sales, it wouldn't be the case they would want to work with us. But we're going after a different demographic within the event, a different person wanting to buy. They're more, instead of buying a souvenir T-shirt or hoodie, they're buying a Wild Bill's mug, and they get some soda with it.
Yeah, yeah. And if you haven't seen, right, the people listening, if you haven't seen the booth, yeah, look it up. Really cool. And then I still have, you probably don't remember this, but you gave me a mug when I first started dating my now wife, like 4 years ago. And I got a pink one to bring it home to give it to her as a gift. And she still uses it, right? Like those mugs last forever, right? They're really cool. So yeah, people need to look it up. They're very cool memorabilia.
Well, Josh, I'll add a story about the cool memorabilia part to this. So when I was first thinking about, should we get involved with this company, and is this a good company to kind of buy as a platform for creating jobs for veterans, I have a classmate of mine from business school, he was undergrad and business school with me. And I sent him a text. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this business. It's kind of an odd business, but like, let me tell you a little bit about it. And I didn't say exactly what we did, but I gave him, a little bit of info. And he said, Mike, are you talking about Wild Bill soda? And I'm like, how did you know? Like, I didn't even say it was soda. And he sent me a picture of his desk at his office. And there was Bill the Goat, an American flag, and a Wild Bill's mug. And I said, why would you have a Wild Bill's mug on your desk next to Bill the Goat is the mascot for the Naval Academy, for those who are wondering? Like, why would this mug merit being on the desk with Bill the Goat? And he's like, oh, because my son went to Temple and he rode at this regatta and Wild Bill's was there. And we bought one of the mugs, but then we ended up buying two of the mugs, and then everybody wanted a mug and we all save them. And every time I look at the mug, I remember my son and rowing in that regatta, and it was a beautiful day. So we have, people do, the mugs do bring back memories. And then the fact that we give a lifetime warranty on them, and we've had people who've had mugs for 20 years call us, and we do say, tell us the story about this mug and we'll send you a new one. And there's like crazy, like people, there's stainless steel. It's not a paper cup. It's not plastic. It's not going to go in the garbage. Like, people really keep these things and use them. And it's kind of fun.
Yeah, they're very cool. Okay. So let's talk about territories, right? So tell us a little bit about like the size, like how do you guys pick the size of a territory? And then what are like prime territories that if I was going to be a new owner, like these are like the territories that they're going to kill it?
Yeah, so we're initially, our FDD right now has a territory being 2 million people, and we're going to be redoing that for 2026. And because I mentioned the new piece of equipment that allows people to kind of go down market for shows, we're going to make the territories smaller, but people will be able to add equipment to get bigger territories. So we're working on that right now. We'll have it for 2026. It will be very much aligned that if somebody wants 1 stand, 2 stands, 3 stands, the territory is going to kind of flex around that need. And we will have people who are only going to want a small territory with 1 stand, and we're going to have people who want to build out, 3 and 4 stand territories, and we're going to accommodate that. As far as around the country goes, there is a lot of, we have the 15 franchisees. We have markets where we corporately do shows that we would be turning over or selling to franchisees, and we have a mechanism in our FDD to if we're giving over an existing show to kind of sell that to a new franchisee. Um, but I would say, most of the country is pretty darn open. We have a lot open in, in the southeast. We have a lot open in Salt Lake City, Utah, Wyoming, a lot of California. We have events in San Jose. We're working on San Diego is a priority market for us. Um, Parts of Pennsylvania are a priority market for us. Parts of Ohio are a priority market. Um, so there's just we have currently serviced some events in West Virginia, but we don't have a franchisee there. We also currently franchise service events in Kentucky and Missouri, depending on how you like to pronounce that. That are would be great franchise markets as well. So um, a lot available geographically.
Yeah, very
Oh,
cool.
and yeah, and Josh, I will mention that we have done events up in Canada in both Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. It's a good market. It's a good, they are the original. I mean, they're cowboy, 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 and soda, soda, soda people up there. So that's another market we haven't actively pursued finding a franchisee in Canada, but that's a that's a market as well.
Man, that's cool. Okay. So, I mean, a lot of places, right, all over the country sound like, is open. Very cool. Okay. And then let's talk about, challenges, right? So if you could pick and kind of give a story of the biggest challenge that a franchisee faces and, like, how you guys help them get through it.
Yeah. So so s- training on the equipment has always been a challenge because of the complexity of the equipment. And I mentioned we had our soda system had a multiplex chiller in it, which is a complicated piece. I was on a submarine. You were in the Marine Corps. We saw equipment, and we know every piece of equipment breaks. Like, and the more complex it is, the more it breaks. Or not that it breaks, but it needs maintenance, has to be serviced. A big focus of ours was kind of getting away from complexity with the equipment, and that's our latest piece of equipment, which you can see on our website, called our 5-head system, and it operates on a chill plate. It's kind of it's easy to train on it. Like, we can train in a couple of days versus training in months and having to do a lot of events. So I'd say that was the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge historically was staffing, and it ties into the first one, because if you have a piece of equipment with a lot of mechanical parts and you need highly trained people, the universe of people you can hire to be an event manager is small. So because we have something now that is you can train somebody quickly or much quicker on, the universe of candidates of event managers and event staff has grown exponentially. So equipment was a challenge, has been a challenge. Staff is always a challenge. And then I would say another big one is, we have franchisees who just started in Vegas and franchisees who just started in Phoenix, Arizona, some Army folks and Air Force folks. The first thing we're doing is getting them in the venues. So there's some venues that we've historically been in, but there's also venues in those markets that are great venues and we've never been in them. So we're corporately reaching out and saying, hey, this is Wild Bill's. We work with you in these other markets. We work with you, and we work, here are people that we've worked with within your organization. We have a new franchisee. We'd like to work with you on getting them in the venue, either directly or as a subcontractor. So that just takes time. Now, it's not every event that requires being in a convention center with a contract. There's plenty of outdoor events and they're easier to get into, but it is important that in the markets that we get in these big, these big venues where there's lots of people and lots of events. So that's a challenge. Um, I would say for our franchisees, it's been a challenge of the business 101. So our startup checklist that we work with them is how to start an LLC, how to do QuickBooks, how to set up a chart of accounts, how to get a bookkeeper or do the bookkeeping yourself, how to file for the state of whatever tax thing, and how to do your quarterly reporting. And like there's that stuff is not like, I remember from the first time I started, my very first company, it was like a pain in the rear figuring it all out. And so I think that's a challenge. And getting an insurance broker, like that's interviewing an insurance broker and getting a quote and having to, how do I review the quote? So I'd say the basics of the basics of running a business. And then the things you have to do, once you get started, is you got to get a place to put your equipment. Some of our franchisees keep their equipment in their home, in their garages. A couple of them have their own little warehouses, and then most use storage facilities and rent space in storage facilities. I think it's important. Our equipment takes anywhere between it ranges from 3,500 pounds to 3,500 pounds to 1,900 pounds. Depending on the equipment you get, you're going to need a Ford 150 or a Transit van to pull it, all the way up to a 350 for one of our biggest pieces of equipment. It's, if you don't have a piece of equipment and you have to rent, it just adds cost and challenge. So I think one of the things we've realized with our most successful franchisees is they had a truck already, or they traded in their car and got a truck. And then if they have two stands, maybe they're renting a truck for this few weekends while they're building up their route for their second stand. But eventually, they have enough equipment, they have enough trucks, cargo vans to pull the stands they have. So we've noticed, people get started and then you have to rent a truck. It's an added expense. It adds an extra day. It adds extra cost. So we really make sure that people are set up to be able to, buy the equipment, afford the equipment, pay for the equipment if we're financing it, and that they've got access to a truck, or they're buying a used truck to be able to go out and do the events. The piece around securing the events, that's it's a lot of emailing and a lot of calling, and you do have to go by the venue sometimes. So, we couldn't get in the Tampa Bay Convention Center, and our Marine, our Marine down there, delivered flowers and delivered plants. And, we have a story of sending a mariachi band to somebody's office to get them to have a meeting with us. And it worked. Like, we did get a meeting with them, and now we've been in that venue. But a lot of people, when you say, I serve unlimited soda from a mobile Wild West stand, half the people that hear that they can't even comprehend it. And, we have to send them pictures and send them, we were on Fox and Friends. So we have a great video from Fox and Friends, and people are like, oh, I get it. I see that. And then a lot of people will say, you know what, come to think of it, I think I've actually seen that somewhere. And we're like, do you ride motorcycles? And they're like, yeah, my husband rides motorcycles. Does he go to Sturgis? Like, oh yeah, actually, we know you guys from the Gettysburg Bike Rally, or we know you guys from, so, but it's, basic, say you got to be a salesperson. You got to be willing to, send the 100 emails. And this year we've had a couple of examples of, venues that were really hard to get in, that took us many, many years, but we finally got in them. And, one was an important one for a franchisee and one was an important one for corporately. But, we do monthly franchise calls, and our franchisee got on the phone and said to everybody, this is why I kept doing it. And this is why I kept reaching out. And this is why I kept emailing this owner of this racetrack. And this is why I went by and visited. And I finally got in there, and let me tell you what my last 3 weekends were like. And that makes everybody, it makes you want to go back to emailing and visiting, and, you want to go by and visit the venue. And they just, a lot of times they can't comprehend what we do, or they think it's competitive with something else, but we're usually not.
Yeah. 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 That's so cool. Right. And I think that shows just the grittiness, right, of like a good owner, of being like, okay, are you going to be creative? And when these people say no, are you going to send a mariachi band to their office? Right. Like,
Yes.
not everybody's going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you another one that's kind of on the creative. We had I've gone to some franchise conferences to learn about franchisors, since I was a franchisee with Wild Bills and another company. I had never been a franchisor. So I went to a franchisor conference to kind of learn about, that side of it. And what I came away from it was like, I think we'll be a better franchisor if we just act like we're a franchisee. Like that's just the truth of it. Like we do events too. Let's focus on what matters to our customer, which is our, our franchise partners. And so an example is, originally, Wild Bill's only sold stainless steel collectible mugs, period. And we had a couple different variations of it with a couple of different finishes. And the franchisees asked us for different styles and different finishes. And like, we went from having, 10 to 100 to 400 to, we have a lot of styles of mugs now. And then the franchisee said, well, why can't we do a plastic travel tumbler with a lid and a straw? Because we're doing these events that are more the ones where they bring the dinosaurs for the families. They set up the dinosaurs, the Jurassic Park type things. You'll see this some point, but it happens all over the country. They actually bring dinosaurs and they set them up at museums, and little kids go, and Jurassic Quest kind of things. And we started doing them, and
Yep.
and
I know
yeah,
exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
yeah, and people are like, well, honestly, for this crowd, they probably would like a plastic travel tumbler. And initially, I'm like, well, as the franchisor, that's not what we do. We do stainless steel. And the more we thought about it, we're like, one franchisee asked about it, and then two franchisees asked about it, and then three franchisees asked about it, and then our own staff asked about it. It's like, why not do it? Like, let's try it and pilot it and see if it works. And we did. And then the other one is, and now we have, changed our FDD we are, to make sure that, that's just a SKU that people sell. The other one was, it used to be you have to buy a mug and you have to get unlimited refills for the day. Well, what if you want single serve? Like there's a universe of people that want single serve. And that was another one where, well, we never did it, never done it, never have done it, never will do it. And then we asked ourselves, why? Like, why won't we do it? Why don't we do it? And it turns out there's a universe of events where people wouldn't buy a refillable mug because it's not conducive to, particularly an event where people are moving, like people are moving, they're parading, they're moving by. They're not gonna buy. Some people do buy the stainless steel mug because they like it, but they don't usually get a refill because they're only going to be there once. So we did start testing single serve, and it really, really works well in some circumstances. So, we've had franchisees say, can I do root beer floats? Like, why don't we try doing that? And we've piloted that. And so I think we have a lot of understanding of these different types of events and what might work. And a lot of times, if something is truly new to us, and we're doing it or a franchisee is doing it, the answer is show up with a bunch of everything and have a bunch of different signs. And like in the first hour, you can tell what's going to work, what's not going to work, and you have to pivot and find out what customers want. And in the old days, we were just really set in our ways of this is what we sell and that's all we sell, and you got to kind of fit in our model. And it's not, and we do have, our branding is very important. The look and feel is very important. The idea of refundability of, refillability on the mugs is important. Everybody follows all that. But we do other, if circumstances, require something else, we're open to doing it. And we do, and we test it and try it. And some things work and some things don't.
Yeah. And I think that's a nuance that I don't think people would appreciate until they're like in a business that doesn't have that, right? Where they're like, nope, this is the way we do it. And it's like, well, things change, things are different. And like to have that
Yes.
sophistication where you can tell them, okay, like bring 4 posters, rotate them. This is what works best. And boom, this is what you do for the rest of it. Like it seems almost common sense, but like it takes a long time to figure those things out in the business.
I agree. And and I'm not saying that every single idea that every franchisee says we are like, go with it, go, we all have our share of preposterous ideas and we decide not to do them. But the nice part is we have our monthly calls. We're engaging with our franchisees all the time. We're very hands-on and active with them. And the ideas are coming from, like, I have to say, if you stacked up the 10 best ideas that have happened with Wild Bill since I've been involved, maybe corporate would get credit for 1 or 2 of them. Like certainly we get credit for, really entering the convention center space and entering the concession space. We did, like, that was a big corporate initiative, but a lot of these other things are figured out at the local level. And we got sharp, smart, fun franchisees who, by the way, really support each other. And so we allow our franchisees to go out of territory. They have to have permission. And if they're in somebody else's territory, they need their permission as well. But and it's not a guaranteed thing at all. But what I can say is every one of our franchisees now has done out of territory, and a lot of it is covering for franchisees. They just have more, they have an event, there's very, very busy weekends during the year where every piece of equipment is going to be out and you're going to be turning down events. And a lot of times we get on these calls and we have, good historical events that just can't be serviced for whatever reason. And everybody pitches in, everybody helps each other out, everybody represents the brand well to, nobody's afraid of having, another franchisee help them out in the show. We have had franchisees that will travel as well. So we're doing, we just did a big event in Salt Lake City. We did the event corporately. We franchisees came out and helped us from some other territories that had staff. And similarly, they have times where they've got really busy weekends, and other franchisees or corporate staff are helping them. So, it's a good team of people, and we've been working together for a long time. And yes, do we have to build up our franchise operations to support more franchisees? Of course we do. Are we going to add them? So we're going to add them at a nice pace, and we're kind of going to grow our franchise support as we grow our number of franchisees. But we've been doing this a long time. Like the basics of how does it work, we know. We need to, we're going to be upgrading into our for our mug and syrup ordering for the franchisees. Like there's things we're going to do to make it easier for them and easier for us, and investments we're going to make kind of in the franchise ops. But we know what we're doing, and we've been doing it a long time. And we also, recently started the, buddying up new franchisees with existing, and that's been a big piece where, they have the numbers for our staff and we're available, but they also have their buddy who, if they want to run something by, hey, I got a issue, I got a complaint, I got a recommendation. How should I don't want to directly, I want to ask you before I ask Mike and the team about it. And it's a healthy thing to do. It's kind of like in the in the Navy with having a chief or having an ombudsman, same sort of thing. But if nothing else, I hope the point of we are very careful of who we pick. We want the right people. We want them to be successful. We'll support them. We're really focused on supporting them, and we would rather have quality over quantity, and we're not in a rush. So we're building a brand, and it takes time.
Yeah. Well, that's great to see. And Mike, I appreciate it. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think this is a very cool and exciting opportunity for a veteran who wants to get into business ownership that I really haven't seen anywhere else. And so, yeah, I appreciate you being here. Do you have anything that you want to finish with?
I just want to thank you for having me on and helping to get the story out. The biggest, I think one of the big barriers that we've had, we've been just kind of focused on this controlled growth and expanding. We haven't really gotten the story out, and when we do come across the Army sergeant, and he hears about what we're doing, it's the case of, boy, I wish I knew about this a couple of years ago. And so working with you and getting the story out is really important, because we can have the best system, and we can have the veteran franchise program, and we can have mentors, and we can have buddies, and we can have this great equipment and this list of shows that need to be serviced. But if people don't know about it, it kind of doesn't happen. So I'm just grateful for you to immediately, since we first met, take an interest in what we were doing and follow up, and that you still have your mug. That's awesome. And thank you for just being a partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. If you want to learn more about Wild Bills, reach out to me, Josh at tracerfranchising.com. I'll be able to tell you more about what territories are available, as well as get you introduced to the Wild Bills team. So thanks again, Mike. And I hope to be able to find some veterans that will be a great fit for Wild Bills.
Thank you, Josh.
All right.